All right, everybody, welcome to Las Vegas and to AWFS, and this is Shop Talk Live, kinda live. Shop Talk Live is Fine Woodworking Magazine's bi-weekly podcast. I'm the host and editorial director of Fine Woodworking, Tom McKenna. This is Ben Strano, our web producer, and this is Matt Kenny, our special projects editor. So let's get started.
We should change the name of the podcast to Shop Talk Live when it was recorded.
Okay.
I like Kinda Live. That had a nice ring to it. Shop Talk Kinda Live.
All right. Well, Supermax Tools proudly sponsors the introduction of their new 1632 open-ended drum sander to woodworkers everywhere. This new sanding machine features unique built-in features like a patented quick-adjust lever for fast drum height adjustments and a newly designed turbo-vented dust port that increases dust collection by 15%, plus a digital readout for consistent sanding thicknesses. Supermax drum sanders reduce the tedious process of hand sanding and produce more consistent results, taking your woodworking ability to the next level. The new Supermax Tools 1632 drum sander can be purchased through their network of distributors throughout North America beginning in October 2017. Stop by booth number 4856 to see the complete lineup of Supermax Tools sanders or visit supermaxtools.com for more details.
Cool.
So today we have a very special. Sorry, folks. Little technical difficulties. Audible, with an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedy, and more. You can get a free audiobook with a 30-day trial at www.audible.com/shoptalklive. So now we can move on.
All right.
Today we have a very special guest, John Ratzenberger. It's a well-known fact that John is a talented actor, but a lot of folks don't know that he's a passionate carpenter as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome actor, trade skills advocate, and AWFS keynote, Mr. John Ratzenberger.
Hello, gentlemen. Matt. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Ben. How are you?
Another nutmegger.
Yeah, three nutmakers, four nutmakers.
Yeah.
You're all from Connecticut?
Yeah, we all live in Connecticut.
No kidding, from where?
I live up outside of Waterbury in Watertown.
So you've had your car stolen.
I actually did within three.
Yeah,
I started within 3 months of working at the magazine. My car was stolen out of the parking lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. See, I'm from Bridgeport, so I know about such things.
Well, that's where they found it, in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a chop shop, right?
Yeah, it's an art form in Bridgeport.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for taking some time today, John. I went to your keynote this morning and enjoyed it quite a bit. But I figured maybe for some of the folks who weren't there this morning, we can touch on some of the points that I thought you talked about very well and vividly. Was one of them was the concepts of how civilization was built by builders and not academia. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that and your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it wasn't theorists that built civilization. It was people with tools. And about 30 years ago, we decided to turn that fact upside down. When the New Agers came out of the Woodstock generation, I was one. I'll take the blame because as a journeyman carpenter, I helped build a stage at Woodstock. So a lot of this is my fault. But, they had this theory that everyone's got to go to college and everyone should be artsy, and they canceled shop classes, they canceled home ec classes. It was all political decisions about what the world that they wanted to exist, even though it flew in the face of reality. And they forgot that it's people with tools that are the most important part of the equation. So the last 20 years, I've spent a lot of time speaking on that and, wrote a book on it and this, that, and the other thing, that we have to, give our kids the option saying, okay, you don't want to go to college, but I bet you'd be a fine stonemason. You like, building those walls with the stones in the backyard or, I was still am, I guess, but I'm a rough carpenter, framer, I got a nice collection of S-wing hammers. But that was my passion as a kid. But I did go on to college and, got a degree in English, so I can speak a lot gooder than I did before. But I still work in wood quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I understand. Civilization, the things that we rely on every single day, depends on someone somewhere with the ability to put a nut and a bolt together.
Exactly. I loved your story about the university grads, how you always tell the university president to tell the kids to go out and change a tire before they get their diploma. I thought that was pretty funny.
And before we give the kids degrees in college, we should require them to go in the parking lot and change their car tire. And if you can't do that, then why are we giving them degrees? You can't change a car tire. And I also recommend that before we swear in elected officials, from the president to dog catcher and assemblymen, they should be required to assemble a coffee table from IKEA. And once again, if you can't do that, then how dare you pass laws that affect me and my family? If you don't have the common sense to do that. And I can go down the list of people that I know in Washington, D.C. who couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's going to drastically shrink the pool of candidates for political office.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
Yeah.
Because back in the Founding Fathers' day, everybody knew about carpentry, repairing roofs, glass making. They knew about horse husbandry, bridle making, the care and feeding of a saddle, farming, crops, seasons, the conditions of soil. But they knew all that before they went into politics. And now we have people in politics
don't know anything.
who are knuckleheads, frankly.
One of the things that another point that I enjoyed about your speech was the idea of, when you were growing up, and I had the same sort of experience that we were outside. Our parents said, "Get out. I don't want to see you till the streetlights come on."
Yeah, streetlights.
And it's a very different environment nowadays with kind of the helicopter parenting. And so, how has that in your mind changed or affected the trades? And
in a great way, because that's where we learned everything. We thought we were going out to play, but what are we doing? We're riding around on a bicycle, and the chain breaks on the bicycle, and now you got to figure out how to fix it because you're 8 miles from home, and even if you had a cell phone, you don't know your own number. I mean, how many times does an 8-year-old kid call the house?
Right.
So you're adrift. So you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
So you're actually problem solving back then when you were a kid. But now the concept of maybe even when my kids were younger, when I first heard the word play date,
Right.
little Jimmy's got a play date. It was a what?
Yeah.
A play date. But that's the way it is. And interestingly enough, I mean, this is a whole other conversation, but I was talking to a retired cop. He's about 85 years old. And I said, what do you think the difference was? When we were kids, we could go out and just run around and not have a worry in the world. But now, all kids are kept close and stay inside. And without skipping a beat, he said, the Miranda decision. He said, because before the Miranda decision, the cops, it's their neighborhood, they're patrolling, and they knew who the good guys were and the bad guys. And if there were bad guys, they handled it themselves.
Yeah.
And no problem. But because the Miranda decision said everything changed then, and the bad guys have, whether you agree or not, but I thought that was an interesting perspective of why kids can't just go off willy-nilly on the streets now.
Well, in my case, I was deadly afraid of my dad, so I took the line.
There's that too.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, I spent my childhood making my dad was a contractor, so I helped him around the house and sometime on job sites, but building tree forts, and then when I was a little bit older, building skateboard ramps. And that's what I did all summer, And so
you learn really quickly building a tree house that you don't put the ladder on the tree with finishing nails.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's really a carpenter's joke, isn't it? If you're a baker, you don't get that.
Hey, John, I know you have a genuine concern for the future of the skilled trades through all your efforts over the years. Do you want to talk to the audience about your efforts to kind of help fix the trades shortage or the upcoming, in terms of, like you talked about how shop classes have been eliminated and such? What are you doing to help change that?
Well, I do a lot of speaking. I talked last year at a congressional committee in Washington, D.C. about this problem, the fact that we're running out of people who know how to do things. And it's really, the concern is not so much the skilled trades, the concern is about Western civilization. Because that's what brought us to the dance, was people that knew how to... Oh, here's a good, for instance. I was at JFK Airport about 3 months ago. I bumped into some guy who said he'd seen my show on manufacturing and knew that I was interested in this, and he thanked me, and he wanted to thank me. And I said, where are you going? On vacation or something? He was on his way to Argentina to, well, first of all, you have to know that his business was building metal gas compression tanks, like tanks for propane or any kind of gas, large ones, small ones. He was on his way to Argentina to hire 20 welders. Now, this is a guy, he's just outside of New York City. And he couldn't find one welder in the Connecticut, New York, New Jersey area. And that's how bad it's getting. So he's going to Argentina to hire welders. See, we all assume that, it's got to be, they're out there. Well, no, they're not.
Yeah, welders are hard to find, I know that.
They're very hard to find. Yeah, as a matter of fact, my son's got a buddy who's a welder, and he's making $126,000 a year. He's working on an oil rig, but still.
Yeah. Well, it's the same with the electrical trades. I have some of my son's friends, they don't really want to go to college. So I'm saying you should go to a trade school, learn wiring or electrical work, because you could be retired by the time you're 55.
I'm clearly in the wrong industry.
Well, it's true, because my son obviously heard me the last 20 years, talking about this stuff, and I always told my kids, do whatever you want to do. I don't care, as long as you're happy, but get a skill that you own. Mm-hmm. And then you're never going to be out of work. You're never going to have to worry about getting a job. And I know that for sure because I went to England in 1971, and I got a job the next day as a house framer. I just go up to a building site. So you need another carpenter? Sure, come on. So it's never been a problem. Anywhere in the world I've gone, you get a job. So my son apparently listened really good, because after he graduated from college with an English degree, like his dad, he said, you know what, I'm going to be a plumber. And he's certified now. He's a licensed plumber, making more money than he ever thought. Loves it, every second of it. But for me as a father, he has a skill that he owns.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that all the testing and the study that he had to do. It's much more difficult than getting a degree in English.
Yeah.
So everybody lauds. I mean, even the last president, he made a big deal out of, everyone's got to go to college, go to college, go to college. I want to say, wait a second. Someone's got to build the college, maintain the college, build the roads, the bridges, string the lights, the air conditioning. But for some reason, there's a fantasy world out there. I swear they must go to work on a unicorn. Let's pretend the world is, everybody goes to college.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I appreciate you coming in for a few minutes.
That's it? You throw me out already?
Well, you can hang out for a while if you want.
Any questions?
You want to talk
Cheers?
some tools?
Wasn't real beer.
What wood was the bar on Cheers made from?
Maple.
It was maple, and it was stained?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's a good wood for a countertop.
He nailed
He knew
it.
it.
I mean,
Yeah.
What's that?
awesome. We were, it's
knew
so
the-
you're gonna know what wood that was made of because a bar top you don't really pay attention to a lot. But you sat at that bar top for a long time, so you
11 years, sir.
11 years.
Yeah, I actually carved the last day of filming, because I always carry a pocket knife. I carved my initials on the top of the bar.
That's
neat.
awesome.
And then George went and did the same, put Norm where he sat.
Oh, that's funny.
So if anybody says this is the real Cheers bar, you go look at the corner at the end that we sat in. If those initials aren't there, it's not the real
not the
Cheers
real
bar.
That's awesome.
Good to know.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again. I really do appreciate it, making the trip across the country.
Yeah,
And
not at all. Thank you, everybody,
thank you.
for doing what you do.
Mr. John Ratzenberger, folks, thank you.
That was cool.
Yeah, very nice.
Now I know what to look for in Boston.
See? I'm not the only one who's had a car stolen in Connecticut.
We have another special guest today, our contributing editor, Rollie Johnson, who
I think,
is...
wait, we have to. It's not over yet.
It's not over. We're not
It's
done
not
yet.
over. Don't get up and leave.
Come on up, Rollie. Mr. Johnson.
Raleigh is
Come on, Rollie, hurry up.
one of our
We're on the
contributing
clock here.
editors.
Yeah. Nobody clapped, Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you.
You ready to answer some questions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. We'll get to the real deal on woodworking here with some questions. First one comes from Andrew, and he says, on the last episode, Matt Kenny described poplar as horrific, dreadful, and abomination. Please expound on this and analyze the alternatives. I happen to have just used poplar for my first set of drawer sides, and I'm curious about the pros and cons of each species. So he's basically talking about secondary woods, maybe?
I don't think I said that
You
on
said
the
that.
last podcast. I think it was some other podcast. But
Got the date wrong.
No, that doesn't sound like something you'd say.
I'm not going to back down. Poplar is dreadful. It's ugly. I think specifically I meant as a secondary wood for drawers or anywhere a secondary would be seen, but not for interior structural components like drawer runners, things like that. Use poplar there if you want to. I really like to use now basswood. I like basswood for a drawer fronts, or not drawer fronts, but drawer sides and other components that would be seen because poplar basswood has a really nice color. It's a nice creamy white. It's a very consistent color.
It's very lightweight.
It's very light.
Yeah. Easy to work. Beautiful drawers.
Yep, and it works well with hand tools. So
What's the price like compared to
poplar?
Poplar.
It's usually less expensive than poplar.
Oh.
It has a grain that is pretty much invisible. So what you really end up with is a nice pale creamy color. Whereas poplar, I've been able to buy really nice creamy white poplar, but it's difficult to find. Usually it's sort of brownish to greenish.
Nice green streaks. Yeah, they're beautiful.
Well, yeah, they eventually turn brown. But also poplar just doesn't work as well with hand tools. And so my preference is basswood. I also use white pine for secondary woods when it comes to drawers.
That's my favorite, white pine.
And those woods also just go better with the primary woods that I use. So, so poplar is not...
You said you don't like soft maple either.
I don't like soft maple, no. I don't like the color. I don't like the grain. And it's hard, so... and it's heavy.
It is a lot heavier.
Yeah.
Than,
So-
basswood that was traditional for so many years. To make drawers out of it.
I've been using pine just because I like the smell.
Pine does smell nice.
Yeah.
Pine
Basswood
is
does.
hard for dovetails though because your chisels have to be sharp
Mine are.
when you're
Yes.
That's the deal.
lots
Yeah.
of done.
You got to talk to Mike.
We always talk about being
Your saw
sharp.
has to be sharp.
But there are a lot of great alternatives out there instead of poplar. I think people default to poplar because it's inexpensive and it's what everyone just sort of always says: use poplar, use poplar.
Yeah.
But they should feel emboldened to explore other secondary woods. There's ash is a great secondary wood.
Yeah.
and it can be, it's
Ebony's
heavy.
really good too.
What's that?
Ebony's really good too.
Ebony's a fantastic secondary wood, yes.
MDF.
You can be like Chris Beckford and
MDF.
use cherry as secondary wood.
Yes.
Cherry.
MDF has that consistency of grain that's so nice.
Yeah, thanks, Rollie.
You're welcome.
Always making good contributions.
I always.
Glad we brought you up here, Ral. Thanks.
Yeah.
He's no Mike
It was nice seeing
Pekovich.
you guys all.
Now, when we were talking earlier, though, Rollie did come to the defense of poplar for certain things.
Yeah.
Like what?
Poplar is great for veneering, for using as a core for overlays.
Sure.
It's wonderful for that because
Yeah.
it is stable. It's reasonably priced. It's readily available.
When
Good
I-
basswood can be hard to find in some markets.
When I make shop-made plywood, I use poplar for that.
It works beautifully
Yeah.
for that. Yeah.
All right, well, let's get to the next question. This one is from Nick, who has a question about milling up some logs. He says, I have some cherry walnut maple logs cut into boards, or I'm having some cherry walnut and maple logs cut into boards. The logs are 18 to 20 inches wide and 9 feet long. I was going to have the cherry rift sawn to 4/4, the walnut flat sawn cut to 8/4, and the maple flat sawn cut to 8/4. Should I have this lumber cut differently? I don't have any specific projects set up for this, except for maybe a sculpted chair with the walnut. So,
Probably a Maloof style.
Rollie, you live in the woods.
Yes. Yes.
In a tree, actually.
Yeah, in a tree.
They make cookies in
Under
that
the
tree.
but it's a very fast car.
In amongst the roots.
Have you ever had any lumber milled up?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I have. And I've got some friends in Minnesota that are enthralled with making logs into boards. And I keep telling them they will get over this eventually. So
Has he?
there's some real benefits to having your boards milled out of a single log because you have consistency in grain pattern, color, density of the grain. So there's a real benefit to doing it. But yeah, it's a lot of work to get it done right. You really do have to plan. And knowing what your project is when you mill the lumber is really a benefit because then you can determine how much you want to put into quarter sawn, rift sawn, flat sawn, whatever you want. Toshio Date spends lots of time laying out where he wants each board on some of his projects to come out of the log because of what they do.
Well, Matt had some really good tips about milling it up without a project in mind, too.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, for me, I know what type of grain I want, and I know what type of thickness I want. You know, I like to be able to resaw my lumber to get four-corner matches and things like that. So if I had some trees like this to mill up, I would want to mill it up to optimize my ability to resaw and also to have rift sawn and quarter sawn grain. So, I mean, these are some pretty wide boards, and you know, they have a couple of inches, you know, up to an inch or so of sapwood on either side of it. The walnut, I think, would probably have a little bit more, but I would probably the middle section of the board of the tree, I would probably cut at 8/4 and cut some pieces, several pieces through and through, and then later you could rip out the pith on a bandsaw or something, and then the sort of the half rounds at the top and the bottom. If I had a sawyer that could do this, I would then sort of cut that radially, so I ended up with a lot of rift sawn or quarter sawn boards, and then cut that probably at 6/4 because then you could still resaw it and get workable pieces out of that. So without knowing the specific project that I was making, that's what I would do. But again, what you want to think about is what type of grain do I like to work with? What type of grain do I need the most to make furniture with? And I mean, honestly, for legs and table, usually you want rift sawn or quarter sawn wood, and you save the flat sawn stuff for maybe drawer fronts or panels or a top, and so you don't need as much of that. So that's what I would do.
I think one of the real important things is finding a sawyer who knows how to open up a log, right? Because if you get started in the wrong lane, you might say, you can waste a lot of grain. Some of these guys are really good at looking at a log and saying, this is where I'm going to start, and I'm going to saw it through and through this direction, and they get a lot better yield out of the logs. So.
Right.
Cool. Good advice.
Just got to find a good Sawyer. That's all.
Yeah.
Find a good Sawyer.
She's real. Yeah, and then you can find that unicorn John was talking about.
Yes, exactly.
All right, Ben.
So, talking about logs and everything like that, we Audible reached out to us and wanted to offer our listeners a free Audible book, our free audio book, and as part of that, I went out and listened to One Man's Wilderness, An Alaskan Odyssey by Sam Keith and Richard Prenneke. This guy's like the original YouTuber. He got some land in Alaska, went out with a camera, a video camera, and built his log cabin from scratch. He didn't even bring handles on his chisels because he knew it'd be lighter and easier to just bring the heads of the chisels. And he assembled everything himself. I mean, this guy's kind of living the dream.
It was before video. It was like film, right?
Yeah,
it was like
yeah,
the
it was
50s or the
8mm
60s.
film.
Yeah. I've seen that because they showed all his footage on PBS, I think it was. They made it into a documentary.
And he was a great videographer, but so the book that I listened to, I listened to it on the flight over here. It's basically his diary of the first year, and building the cabin, building his cache, and even to the point where he's making pancakes and decides he wants to have a spoon that's perfectly sized for the amount of pancake batter he needs for one pancake. So he goes out in the woods and carves a spoon perfectly sized for that, and it's just it's green woodworking to the max.
The second book documents his second year, and it's mostly taken up with the ongoing turf war with the Badger family that he had. That's pretty much what it's about.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. So, if this sounds interesting to anyone, you can go to audible.com/shoptalklive, and you'll get a free book when you sign up at that URL. So check it out.
We don't need no stinking badgers.
Yeah.
Hey, it wouldn't be AWFS without some cool woodworking stuff that we've seen.
Tools.
Have you had time to walk around, Raleigh, and anything catch your eye yet?
Not a whole lot. I got in late last night, and this morning was rather hectic. But
Excuses.
There's some nice things at Festal.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look a lot more this afternoon. So, sorry.
Unprepared.
Yeah.
Another sterling contribution from Rollie
Another
Johnson.
sterling contribution, yes.
You just lost your per diem.
Well, I saw some of the things I saw that I'm pretty excited about. Veritas has a multiplane coming out. Their version of a number 45, Stanley 45.
55.
Stanley 55, sorry. Which looks really awesome. It's not available yet. It's not going to be available until August, but it's, as all of Veritas' stuff, it's really well made, well designed. So I'm excited to see that. And I also saw what I really liked was Microfence as a company that makes plunge bases for trim routers and for rotary tools. And then there's all these other contraptions that go along with the base, so you can cut circles and ovals, and there's a micro adjustable fence and all this. But the thing that they added to their bases, which is amazing, is an LED light. And I know other people have LED lights, but this is like
brilliant.
Bright.
It's the LED light from above.
Yes.
It lights up everything. You can actually see through the wood and see your bench. It was really bright, and a bright light on a router makes a huge difference. So I'm pretty excited about that and getting that into the test.
That was nice. I liked the Lee Valley booth. They have a new marking gauge, and it's a round type marking gauge, a slicing gauge, and they've offset the bar, so it gives you a little bit more purchase on the fence to be able to do better scribing. It's a really nice looking tool. And
but the fine tune.
Oh, the micro adjust is awesome.
The micro
That's
adjust
really
on
nice,
it was
for those who need micro adjusts.
Yeah, and Narex has some spoon carving tools and some oddses.
Yeah, I was used to that, and I almost bought one.
Odd
oddses. So that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, this year, overall, we seem to be seeing a lot of new stuff, so it's a good sign for the industry.
Did you guys see Bessie's version of the Holdfast?
Not
where
yet.
It's a post that goes in a 3/4 inch hole, but then it's got a ratcheting clamp on top of it, and it was really, really cool. I think that a lot of guys who might not be into Holdfast because you're bashing down a big metal spike into your bench basically, but this is like Christian Becksford uses crank down Holdfast all the time, but this seems like it would be a little bit quicker. A little bit easier to get things in place. That's one thing I saw yesterday. That I thought
did
was cool.
see, and this will make Mike Pekovich really upset that he wasn't here, some amazing innovations in blue tape this year. Startling innovations in blue
Isn't there a
tape.
show, the Blue Tape Group?
Yes.
Sorry, that's really bad.
Guide stripes in it for laying out joinery. It's
Right.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is.
All right. Well, let's get to our all-time favorite tool of all time for all time
This week.
this week. Rollie,
Yeah.
our special guest.
My all-time favorite tool for this week of all time is my Walker Turner 16-inch bandsaw that was found in the corner of a garage under a pile of junk. And the guy had used it for a number of years, decided that didn't work real well and wanted to get rid of it. Immensely heavy bandsaw. But what was really interesting about it was the upgrades that had been done to it over the years. The tires looked like the Grand Canyon. They had so many chasms in them on the upper tire. The lower tire was made out of fire hose. The canvas and rubber impregnated fire hose that they had.
Was it sewn together or something?
No, they just glued it on with some kind of glop that they had smeared all over everything. And no crown, it was perfectly flat.
Was that the bandsaw you rehabbed when I was
rehab
at there?
for the
Why?
magazine. Yeah.
Sounds great.
And what was amazing is the guides were terrible. The thrust-bearing guide had deep grooves in it. It hadn't turned with the blade in probably 30 years. But the guy could actually do woodworking with it, which was kind of amazing. But it proves that a bandsaw, if you saw slow enough and move the board around enough, you can actually sort of follow a line. So. But rebuilding it really brought it around. I had ceramic guides made for it. There's a fella in Sacramento, Nick Osa is his name. He will do custom ceramic guides. He made a set for that, and between rebuilding it, putting new guides in it, it's a wonderful saw.
And you only spent $5,000 rehabbing it.
Yeah, somewhere in that area.
5,000 hours.
Yeah. The chrome
It was well worth
plating,
it, though.
the chrome plating on the housing really sets it off.
I like the
Nice.
flames you painted on it.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
I would not be surprised if you painted flames on a tool at all. At all.
How about you, Matt?
I did on a refrigerator. I mean, does that count?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my favorite tool this week is one that I just recently reinstalled in my new shop, and it is my shop lights. Before I ever had real shop lights, I didn't understand the difference that being able to see what you're doing makes. So all of a sudden I was using the same wood throughout my projects instead of inadvertently putting in pieces of walnut. But I just rehung my shop lights and rewired them, and it changes a space from being somewhere to work into a real shop. And so it's just a thing. I'll never have a shop again that isn't just flooded with lots of good light, overhead light, and it makes working vastly easier. And I mean, I would almost say that if you do not have good lighting, you don't have a shop. You just have some kind of space to work in. And it's weird to think about because it's not. I don't think it's something that people think about when they think about their shop. You think about table saws and band saws and joiners, but shop lights are probably the most important thing there because you can't really do anything else without it.
Good point.
Yeah. So
What brightness do you use? Do you use like the
Daylight.
ultra white?
Ludicrous.
Daylight.
Ludicrous. No, I use daylight balance. So their daylight temperature,
5,000 Kelvin,
like
or whatever
5,600 or whatever.
5,600.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I think I have 8 lights in right now in a one-car garage, so it's really, really bright. And paint your walls white and your ceiling white too.
Okay. Good start. Well, mine is my workbench. I had a bunch of woodworking machines, but I really couldn't do any real furniture making without my workbench. It's nothing special. It's, Doug fir, MDF, lots of crossbars to support it, and a nice vise, some bench dogs. But once I built that, I was off and running. So that was my woodworking changing moment. Instead of working on a piece of plywood that's on 2 sawhorses, which is kind of dangerous when you're trying to hand plane, I built a workbench, and now I haven't worked in the fine woodworking shop in a couple of years.
Yeah.
So, you still haven't cleaned up.
Yeah, no.
You still haven't cleaned up your last mess. But neither have I.
I emptied the dust collector, though.
No, you didn't.
Sorry. So, how about you, Ben?
I got to go with my shop apron. I have Pekovic on you. I've got a Texas Heritage shop apron that he customized exactly how I wanted it. And working in the fine woodworking shop, it's huge. And you're at the hollow chisel mortiser, and all of a sudden you realize you want to get your combo square, and it's 38 feet away, and it takes 10 minutes to get there and back.
But 10 minutes.
Who made yours? You got yours from Wingnut and Sassafras, right? Shop aprons. That's not true.
That's Mike's. But it's once you get used to it, once you load it up and everything's just where you want it and what you want in there, and I put it on the second I get in the shop, and I'm never looking for my marking knife. I'm never looking for a pencil. All of mine are sharp, unlike Mike's, because I carry a knife in the apron and I can sharpen them.
But you're losing all that exercise.
Well, no one can tell, though.
All right. Let's get back to some serious woodworking questions. This one comes from Roy. And it says, Roy says, I'm new to woodworking and have very limited space and tools. I know I'll need to get sharp. Before I go out and buy a sharpening set, I want to get some feedback. I don't have any sort of grinding setup or a way to hollow grind. With that in mind, do you think I should use funds to buy an ideal sharpening stone setup or get a grinder and some lesser quality stones?
Yes to the first one, no to the second one. Do not get cheap stones.
No.
Because you don't need a grinder to maintain the bevels.
Sure.
And also you can get like a grinder for like $100 and then put 2 of the white wheels on it.
You can get a grinder for $30 at a tag sale too.
Yeah, and that's what I have, and it works fine. But you can also maintain bevels on a piece of granite or a piece of glass with sandpaper. Yep. So it's more important to have some really good stones that are going to work well with the type of tools that you have. If you have O1 steel for all your tools, it's a little less critical, but if you have A2 or PMV11, you want to, I would say, get some good man-made ceramic water stones. And so I would put my money there because what really matters when it's sharpening is not maintaining the primary bevel, it's honing the secondary bevel to mirror polish, because that's what's doing the cutting. Yeah. So whatever you're going to do, there's tons of ways to maintain the primary bevel, and you don't need to buy...
You don't need the grinder.
And when it comes to grinders, honestly, you can spend $99. There's some that cost a few hundred, and then there's like Baldor, and Baldor costs a couple of kids. It's like $1,000. So you don't need to do that. I would get good water stones.
Now, Rollie, you own all of the tools
and all the grinders.
Yes.
But you still use a granite plate with...
I use granite with sandpaper. I really shy away from recommending using grinders for a novice because you can do a lot of damage in a real big hurry with them. Take temper out of blades, really grind them poorly. So, when you're sharpening and you don't know a lot about it, proceed with caution and learn how to get a really good edge. A guide is essential. You need a guide so that you can reproduce that angle, that bevel, hold it in place. Sandpaper works great, lubricate it, but there's one trick to sandpaper that a lot of people don't understand. Is you need lubrication on it. Camellia oil is incredible because you can use it with any type of sandpaper, whether it's wet or dry or just plain old aluminum oxide paper, and the paper will last and last and last because you don't load it up. So you can actually wear the paper out, and it lasts a long, long time, and you can get very, very sharp edges because you can get 5,000 grit sandpaper.
So after you spray the sandpaper with camellia oil, do you have to clean that oil off and that slurry off when?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you clean it off?
Cotton cloth, an old T-shirt, something like that. Paper cloths don't work very well because you have a lot of paper on there, but a cotton cloth will clean it off very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, and glue the paper onto the granite with number 77 spray adhesive, 3M. And a little trick when you take it off, I've heard people grumble, oh, it's a major chore taking it off. A hair dryer. Just heat up an edge, lift it up, and heat the glue, and you can have it off in 10 seconds. Take a little naphtha or acetone to clean it off because you want a totally volatile solvent, so it doesn't leave any oil behind. Glue your new paper on, and you're off and running. The nice thing about the stones is that they're inexpensive, so you can have 4 or 5 stones. I've got a roll-around cart that has 4 stones on it, paper on both sides. So I've got 8 different grits I can work through right there, and it's cheap. That's the big thing.
Well, if you do,
it's cheap when you buy sandpaper once. When you buy sandpaper for 20 years to sharpen, you're going to spend a little bit more money than buying some good water stones.
I don't know about that. Your stone will never wear out?
It'll wear out like in 5 or 6, 7 years, maybe. Yeah. You know.
Maybe.
I sharpen more than you do. I've seen your tools.
One thing about, if you do grow
I use hammers for sharpening. You can draw out that edge really well.
If you do go the hollow grind route, you should make sure to replace the wheel with the softer wheel, and dress it. We ran a great article by Joe Moskowitz, who owns Tools for Working Wood, on how to get a grinder set up and the technique for doing a nice job. So,
and don't cool hot edges in water. Don't do that because you'll fracture that real fine edge and you make a mess out of it. So let them air cool.
How do you know that?
Have you done it a few times?
Theory.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Shop Talk Live. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Supermax Tools and Audible, and I'd also like to thank all of you for coming out. Hope you had some fun. If you want to listen to it, Audible has it with an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedy, and more. You'll find what you're looking for. Get a free audiobook with a 30-day trial today by signing up at www.audible.com/shoptalklive. Please spread the word about Shop Talk Live to your woodworking friends and neighbors. Shop Talk Live is dependent on your questions, so make sure to send them in to shoptalk@taunton.com. You can subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, and while you're there, please give us the all-popular 5-star rating, and don't forget to leave your comments. If you're watching on YouTube, please click that thumbs up button. Finally, you can keep up with Fine Woodworking on Instagram and on Facebook, and look for all of us on Instagram as well, and around the halls this week. Thanks for listening, thanks for attending, and have fun in the shop.
Welcome to
Shop Talk Live.
Now here are 3 guys who love the smell of shellac in the morning.
Tom, Matt,
And
Ben.
All right, it's Wood Talk number 3.